Hi everyone, welcome at this very last episode, the 5th episode of the season, Campus Talks, our online talk show on science, technology and society. So in this awesome teaser that LUVANE made as every week, you can see a little bit what we will be talking about this final episode, sustainability. Sustainability on campus. We use that word all the time again, but how sustainable are we really on campus? How much energy do we use? How much resources do we use? And what does the UT actually do to reduce our footprint? And what does University Rebellion think of this? A group of students that is kind of critical about what the university is doing. Sustainability is also about how we are as a community. Our staff and students, how diverse are we in terms of age, nationality, gender, how strong, flexible, sustainable are our minds also? How do students cope with the virus, the crisis that we are in? Miriam Bult is in the studio tonight. Welcome, Miriam, Vice Chair of the Executive Board. We will talk later. Wonderful that you're here. We will look, as every episode, at a column on data. Erik Kemp made a very nice visualization of the energy use on campus. Nando Tolboom will ask questions. University Rebellion will ask questions. And to speak about human sustainability, psychologist Annemarie Klanderman will be online, and she will talk about how students cope with the crisis, with the virus. And students seem to be very flexible, very strong and also resilient. Alex Jonkhart will then emphasize the way in which the LGBTQIA+, it becomes a very long phrase, group of people at the UT is organized and what they are doing and to put this stronger on the agenda. And finally, culturally, Nest will be online here. Vivian van Voorthuizen will tell us something about her exciting work for Theatre Association Nest. So it's quite a lot that we will do tonight. But first we go to Miriam. Welcome. Once again,
Thanks,
wonderful that you're here. Very nice. We see each other very often. We live very near each other, but now we are here also around the corner, you could say. Maybe the first thing to talk about with you is you will leave our university after a long time, not only as the vice chair of our board, but also, of course, as an alumnus of our university, to become a member of the State Council in The Hague. So that's wonderful news for you. Can you tell us a little bit more about that new job that you found and what's so nice about it?
Well, what I think is very nice about it is that it gives me the opportunity to actually help strengthen our democracy. And given my background, that's actually something I would really like to do. And it also gives me the opportunity to broaden and deepen my understanding of the public sector at a national level. And assumably from a wise perspective, I'd say. Yeah.
It's, of course, quite a different job than you had here. I mean, here you are responsible for running an entire university. So now you're a bit, maybe a bit more on a distance of the daily business in The Hague.
Yeah.
So did you find it a good time to move away a bit further, to become a bit more reflexive, so to speak?
Yeah, but also deepen knowledge again. So I do understand, I think the higher education sector quite well now, from all types of experience that I've had. And I'm really looking forward to, again, deepening knowledge. Also from a somewhat more reflective perspective to start with.
I can imagine. Yeah. Wonderful. Good news for the Netherlands, I think, that you are doing that.
I
Wonderful.
Hope so. Sincerely hope so, yeah.
So let's focus a bit on your time here in Twente, maybe from the context of sustainability. So, of course, from your role in the board, you were responsible for the buildings, the energy that we used, resources. So are there things in the past 6-7 years that you've been here that you are most proud of, and that you think, wow, that's something that we did really well in this respect?
Well, my pride is mostly about people and appreciation and not so much on things or achievements.
I can imagine.
I'm very proud of the fact that sustainability is actually in the hearts of all people in our community. So sustainability has never played such a big role in our community, and I'm very proud of that, and that's an achievement of the people within our community. And I'm also very proud of the appreciation of our staff and students for the facilities and IT services that we have on campus, and sustainability plays an important role in that as well. So it's about what people do and how they are capable and willing of changing their behavior, but also what the quality of our facilities is and how we're doing that.
Yeah, wonderful. Indeed, I mean, it has a big place in shaping 2030, the strategy of the university. So I think that's quite special. Sustainability is one of the key goals that we have.
Yeah.
Now, are there also things that you think we could do better?
Well, my main line here would be less focus on finances, because we have a very strong focus on financial means also in our primary processes. And the paradox is that actually really reduces the way in we actually spend our money. So I think the less focus on finances and more focus on impact and impact we would like to make actually helps this university to perform better. And I think we did some good work there already. When I started here, we had a much stronger financial focus. But also in the primary processes, I think we should let go of that focus on getting more money and try to increase our impact.
So does it mean that it doesn't matter that much if it costs some money to become more sustainable, or is that not how it should?
Well, money, you always, because it's taxpayers' money, you always have to think about how you spend it and how you can spend it in an efficient way. But it's also about quality, and it's also about contributing to the targets that you set together.
Of course. So if you, for instance, think about new things that we are doing now on campus, we are now currently building a new ITC building, or actually rebuilding the old chemistry building. How sustainable is that? Is there a lot of innovation in that building regarding sustainability?
Yeah, sustainability was one of the key variables in designing the new building for ITC. That also has to do with the identity of the ITC faculty. And one of the main things that we do to contribute to sustainability is actually reusing an existing building, including the concrete on the bottom and the metal on the top. We are also reusing the sunscreens on the south side of the building. We use LED lighting. The building is connected to the district heating and to the cold circle. All types of innovations like that. We have inner gardens. We use rainwater to water those inner gardens, and those inner gardens also provide natural ventilation. So we do not need that much energy for the air conditioning systems, for example.
Wonderful. Sounds good. So really, almost everything that you could possibly do to make a building more sustainable. On the roof. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah. Good to hear. So then maybe let's also zoom a little bit in on the virus. Of course, we've been speaking a lot about that, but of course, it has also a lot of impact on our sustainability. Of course, our buildings use less energy. We travel less. So do you think that it had a beneficial influence somehow, and that we can learn something in terms of sustainability from the crisis?
Yeah, definitely. In terms of environmental sustainability, I think we did quite a good job. Indeed, because of the fact that we did travel less. Also, our commute was less, not necessarily by plane, but also the commute to the campus. And at the same time, we did use some more energy for our ventilation system because quality requirements increased. And from the social sustainability side, the crisis was also impactful and not the right way, I'd say. I think our community still took good care of each other, but not in the way that we want to do that.
I feel it's reaching a critical level at the moment. We really need to see each other again. Wonderful. Let's talk more later, but maybe as an intermezzo, we can now look at our monthly column. Erik Kemp always makes a column where he works with data. Show me the data is the title of the column, and he will show us a lot about energy consumption at the University of Twente. Let's watch.
Welcome to episode 5 of Show Me the Data. Imagine that you're running a big organization, like the University of Twente, and you want to make it more sustainable. How would you do it? Where do you even start? Today we will practice the Dutch saying, Meten is weten, or measuring is knowing. If you measure your footprint, you can use that data to decide which changes would lead to the most reductions. You can imagine that part of the university's footprint comes through lights, heating and cooling in buildings. But do you know how this compares to researchers flying to conferences around the world? The university publishes a carbon footprint report every year. And this first chart from 2019 shows us the big picture and tells us that the footprint of employees driving to the UT is actually higher than that of the employees' flights. But the main part, 52%, is electricity. That brings us to the second visualization. The student startup Realized built this energy data portal. Detailed energy data from the past years is now publicly accessible, which is a good practice of transparency. On the left, you can see the effect of the lockdown on the total electricity use of the university. On this platform, you can also find the amount of energy generated by the cold circle and by the solar panels on top of the Horst. And in this view, you see the energy use of the public lighting on campus. It depends on the hours of daylight, which explains the peak in December. During preparation, I talked with some people who are working on this topic. For the last years, the UT mainly invested in technical solutions. Better isolation, replacing light bulbs with LED lights, and placing sensors everywhere, so that the light and the heating automatically turn off if people leave. But now they arrived at the point where most reduction can be gained by changing the behavior of the people inside of the organization. And this is where I think it becomes interesting. In the long term, you can have a much bigger impact if you create a sustainable mindset within your students and staff. So how can you empower individuals to live more sustainably? Flying less and buying less are quick wins, but those are difficult to influence as a university. People, however, will always be eating and drinking, and that's where your choices can also make a difference. This last chart shows a concept that can help: the water footprint. It's an indication of how much water is needed to arrive at the final product. The concept actually originates from the UT, where it was introduced by the late Arjen Hoekstra in 2002. It gives you some insight into the ecological impact of your food. Did you know that for 1 pot of coffee, you need 840 liters of water? Let's conclude. As we just saw, there are two main strategies to make an organization more sustainable. First, you can reduce emissions by investing in your infrastructure. Visualizing data can help you to make informed decisions, but it can also show what you have already achieved. But especially as a university, you can also focus on empowering people to make more sustainable choices themselves. Maybe in the near future, we don't just see the price in euros on our menu, but also the price that nature has to pay.
So yet another impressive column by Erik, I think, as always. So interesting. And so Erik said that actually, half of the energy used is power, and that our behavior becomes more important. Maybe. Well, let's talk about the behavior part later. But electricity use. How much green electricity do we use actually at the university? Is it green at all? What we use?
Yeah, we don't know that exactly because we have to buy our electricity from a supplier that is selected through a tender process. And in this tender process, and in many tender processes, especially for large contracts, sustainability is a requirement from the university point of view. We do use green energy, but we do not exactly know how much, because it depends on what the supplier is giving us. We can buy certificates for green energy, but up until so far we haven't done that because we wanted to spend the money on changing behavior rather than showing certificates that contribute to green power. And it's also in line with the government policy that actually stimulates consumer to consume less and producers to produce green. So we try to act in that same line.
That sounds good, actually.
Yeah.
I must say, I also feel university rebellion, feeling that they could do something about the tendering process. but making our own energy. Jos Keurentjes, who's leading the energy program here on campus, says, well, why not build a wind turbine on campus? There's place enough. So,
I think,
shall we do that?
Well, every idea that is there should be examined.
Yeah.
With respect to wind turbines, unfortunately, in Twente, the wind conditions are not so good for windmills, which means that if you want to have one that actually gives sufficient energy, it has to be very tall, which means that it has to be far away from buildings, and which means that it might be not possible to place it on campus. But it's always good to pose ideas like this and to look into them if it's viable.
Maybe we could have 2, 3. Let's see. We have a question. Nando Tolboom, energy watcher at the UT, who actually would like to ask a question that fits quite nicely with Erik's column. Let's watch Nando's question.
Good.
Hello Miriam and Peter-Paul. My name is Nando and I'm a PhD candidate at this university. Together with Olaf and Diederik, we formed the startup Realized, and we are responsible for the energy data platform and the carbon footprint of this university. This generates a lot of information. The difficulty lies in getting this information to the right people and for them to act on it. In the previous years, the university has significantly reduced its energy consumption. This is mostly thanks to an increase in building efficiency. In the coming years, to maintain this reduction, we need to change the behavior of its users, such as faculties and researchers. My question to you is, how are you going to encourage this behavioral change of the users here on campus?
So the behavior change of us, that's going to be the next level. It's not in our cars, in our rooms, it's in us. So is there a policy for this? Will the university change the behavior of employees?
Yeah, that's exactly why it's so important that sustainability is in our strategy, because that's where it starts. And actually it's in our strategy because of the community of the university, right? Because they place it in our strategy. And it's good that Erik mentioned Arjen Hoekstra, because Arjen also contributed to the Shaping 2030 strategy that we have. And we owe him for that one.
We still miss him.
We still miss him, definitely.
So, of course, we also have a whole faculty of social sciences here at the university. Are they involved somehow in shaping the strategies to change our behavior?
Yes, definitely. There's a specific multidisciplinary working group now who works closely together with the Green Hub, but also with the C program that focuses on sustainability of operations. And they are heavily involved because we do underline the fact that it's necessary to change behavior.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah. Good. So let's watch another question. I mentioned them several times already. University Rebellion. So a young movement on campus which actually wants to change the UT a bit more, well, in a bit bigger way. So let's watch what they want to achieve.
Good.
We are here on campus of the University of Twente with University Rebellion, a young movement who wants to decarbonize, decolonize and democratize the university. We are here in the center of command, near the rooms of our executive board of Miriam Bult, and we are going to ask some questions.
University Rebellion wants the UT to break all its ties with Shell. Currently, Shell funds a lot of research and a lot of student projects.
Why?
We think that Shell is responsible for the destructions of many livelihoods in the global south. They are implicit in murder and human rights violations. So we think that we shouldn't be doing the PR and greenwashing for a criminal organization like Shell.
You also have Sustain, the Green Hub, and Scientists for Future. Why don't you join those initiatives?
Those are great initiatives, and we do know many people there and we spoke with them. But what University Rebellion does is that it really takes the severity of the crisis and we look at this as an emergency. So we are doing direct non-violent action to get universities to respond as soon as possible to the severity of the crisis.
Can you name one action you want to do?
A beautiful action we know has been done in other cities is symbolizing greenwashing that's been going on. We can write statements on nice big windows at the university and then wash them with green water to show what is going on here. We feel the university should do more to tell the truth about the current climate and ecological crisis. We should release a statement declaring the crisis, but also spread information and go into the public, because if you walk up to a random person on the street and either they know there is a crisis but they don't know what to do, or they don't believe a crisis is going on at all. And we are a research institute, we have the information, and I feel like we as scientists, and myself as future scientists, have a moral obligation to go out and spread this information and raise awareness.
If you were Miriam Bult for one day, what would you do?
I would release a statement declaring a climate and ecological crisis, so that people in the region and our whole network would realize how pressing this crisis is.
If I were Miriam Bult for one day, then I would do everything in my power to make sure all cafeterias in the UT go vegan. But at least make sure that there is no more meat sold at all on campus.
So that's clear. They want action. And I think it's not just these two people, one of whom I know very well, actually, Patty works in my group, my kids as well, maybe myself as well. We feel that there is more that we need to do than that we're doing now. So Shell, maybe the first example. Could you say a bit about that? If you hear that Shell is a criminal organization, we should stop dealing with them. Why does the UT still have a connection to Shell in the first place?
This actually is a question about my vision on transformational change.
Yeah.
Activism, confrontation plays a very important part in that, but also diplomacy and being part of the solution, I think.
Yeah.
And with our research and education, we do help Shell to make the transformation that they need to make. If we cut all ties, we also lose the influence that we have through our research and education to make sure that they make the transformation. Yeah. And my statement would be, I think we need all the roles and all the methods, but we also need the diversity of our roles and methods to make sure that we keep our eyes on the same ball to reach the goal. Yeah. And that's actually the change that has to be there.
So I can totally relate to that. I think I have the same character, but I can also imagine that people think, okay, that's all nice that you want to be part of the solution, but if the people who are causing the problem will not change, then there will not be a solution, right? So Shell was now forced by the judge to change. So and that maybe helps also people who believe that we need to change, that there is actually more to be done. Is there something more that we could do? Could we set an example that also wakes up Shell?
But I think through our primary processes, research and education, that was also a call for action. Make sure that you educate, provide facts, figures, inform, make sure that information is right, data are right. And there I think we can have a large contribution, because we also strive for openness. And publish about the findings that we have in making transformations like this. But cutting ties as a university would not be my suggestion, although I do understand this specific call for action.
It's important that some people address the problem and that also some people help to form a solution. That's
all roles are important, equally important.
I can imagine. Interesting. So Hugo Hoff said something about the food on campus. And we are in a unique situation. When we have closed down the canteens, they will probably reopen in September, I think, in August maybe.
Hopefully earlier.
Maybe earlier. Let's go vegan, or at least stop selling meat. Do you think that's a good idea?
Well, I definitely think it's a good idea to use this, the behavioral change that the crisis forced us to go through, to see if we can find some type of reset. So we think about that with respect to traveling. And we also think about that with respect to our services on campus. But we do have contracts, for example, with Appel. And one of the requirements before we got that contract was that they should be presenting vegan food or veganistic food. So that's in our contract, but it's not in our contract that it should be vegan only.
Okay.
We do use the line of try to facilitate, stimulate, inspire as a strategy for change, also in behavior, rather than force. Yeah. And we also think that that really connects to steering a university, because that doesn't work in a top-down kind of way. You need some seducing, facilitating, stimulating and inspiration.
Do you have any idea how you're doing in comparison with other universities? I mean, I recall from before the crisis being at TU Delft, where I think you cannot even get anything that contains meat still if you are in the canteen. I don't know how it is at many other universities, but is there a way in which the universities compare with each other? And
yeah, we definitely share experiences, and we as universities all together signed a multi-annual agreement on the reduction of energy use, with a 30% reduction of energy use between 2005 to 2015. We did 38%. Carbon footprint reduction of 49% by 2030. We are already there as a University of Twente. Okay. And 2050, we made together with VU and Maastricht University a detailed roadmap specifically for our universities, only the three of us, to make sure that we also reach our target in 2050, and that looks good. Up until so far. Yeah.
So there is comparison, and in that sense we are doing well. So maybe the more radical things like stopping to deal with shell and vegan food are interesting options to consider, but the fact that we are not doing that doesn't mean that we are not doing well.
Not at all, no.
Cool.
No.
Interesting. Well, let's see how the discussion will continue with University Rebellion, and I think we will use something more of that.
Definitely, and I actually am looking forward to that as well.
Me too. Wonderful. Okay, now a sustainable UT is also a community of people, a community of people who can cope with setbacks, uncertainties. And in the past year, of course, for our students, it has not always been easy. Studying alone in their room, not being able to sport together, to play in your band or to do theater, and just a few examples, I think, in which, life changed a lot. My oldest son is a student, and so I think I know also from nearby what it can do to somebody. So how healthy is our student group? So we will ask our online guest, Annemarie Klanderman, who is online, student psychologist, counselor of students. Annemarie, welcome.
Hi, good evening.
Wonderful that you're here. So can you tell us a little bit more about how students are coping with the restrictions of the pandemic? And can you say a bit about how they're doing now in comparison to pre-COVID times?
Yes, of course, I will tell something about it. Well, the impression we got from the media in general is that students are suffering badly, and it's all quite negative, that students were having many problems. Our impression at our department is that the majority doesn't seem to have too much trouble, and surely they do feel lonely, and it's hard to find structure. They feel frustrated, less motivated, but some of them even feel like there is a positive effect, like there is less social pressure, like you don't have to attend all social things you actually don't really enjoy always. So I think it's important to nuance. In general, we don't have the impression there are more problems. They seem to cope fine, but of course there are so many specific stories. And I think, lately there has been a very short quick scan been done by the UT, and we're waiting for the outcome of that. It was about mental well-being, but our impression is that the overall students seem to adapt to the new situation by themselves or with help of friends or our help.
Are there specific things that you advised students to do? Can you give them specific strategies to deal with the situation?
Well, we took some effort in offering our help online. When the lockdown started, we continued all activities online, and we extended our well-being page in Canvas, and we also started online stress management workshops, and in which we offer students a tool we call the 4 A's, and the A's are for avoiding, altering, adapting, or accepting. So when facing a task or a stressful situation, you can ask yourself, do I have influence? Do I have any sense of control? Or is it beyond control? So but what you can do is choose how to deal with it at this moment and how to deal with it best. You can avoid the situation, you can try to alter the situation, you can try to adapt to the situation, you can try to accept the situation. And I don't know if there's time, but I can give some examples, like avoiding a situation can be about, if you're really stressed by Corona news, don't watch the news all day, switch off the television. Avoiding is about, altering is about if you don't feel comfortable drinking coffee with a friend in your room because there's not enough space to keep distance, go outside together, for example. About adapting, that is, I think we all did, students and employees, we switched to online working to continue our activities. That is about adapting. And accepting is about bearing a situation like it is what it is, without fighting against it. Sometimes it's no use. And like keeping in mind a 1.5 meter distance we have to do. Live up to that. That's about accepting. So you can apply this model, and not only in studying, but in personal situations as well. And I think both students and we as employees, I think it's a nice model. And I think in general that in stressful times, we coped, we adapt as well. It shows flexibility and resilience as well. And that's something to keep in mind, I think. It's important to see that as well. Next to all problems, of course, are there as well.
Yeah, wonderful. Wonderful that you can give people so much help or so much of a foothold to deal with the situation. Now, maybe the interesting thing is also that some people somehow did better even during the crisis. So for some people, the lack of all impulses and stress and travel was somehow beneficial. Can you say a bit more about that? How does that work? And is that maybe something that we could learn something from also to deal with the crisis if we didn't feel so comfortable?
Yeah. Well, I think in general, many people strive with or like social activities, etc. But there are people who don't thrive with all these social obligations. We had students as well, like who otherwise find stress living up to all standards, like standards of student life, like you have to party and meet up many times, etc. Not everybody likes that. Some people even said they found benefits, like you don't have to explain anymore that you don't want to meet people tonight or whatever. Other students really were positive about having less distractions and being able to focus better on studies or hobbies or values. And of course, students reported also that they need social interaction to feel inspired and to feel stimulated when studying. And we know how important it is to connect to people for our well-being. And I think I can explain something about stress. We all know about the cortisol and about the adrenaline levels rising, but what many people don't know is that there's also the oxytocin level rising. And that's the sort of the hugging hormone. It makes you want to connect to people. It makes you want to share. It makes you want to reach out to people. So that's a beautiful thing in a stress response itself. That it's helping you to connect. And I think so go with your stress response in that way as well, and ask for support and offer support and reach out to each other.
Wonderful. So one thing that I often hear, and I must confess I also feel myself, is that people now also tend to develop kind of a fear to go back to the old situation. I mean, I can't say that I felt that I really thrived in the crisis, but life has changed so much. If I look at my own agenda, I can do so much more because I'm not sitting in trains and planes all the time, that I cannot possibly do all these things if I have to travel again. So, and I won't see my kids for breakfast every day and for dinner every day, you know. So many people say these things. Do you expect that a new challenge to well-being will emerge when the world opens up again?
Well, that might be. I myself feel it as well. It's like you say, how am I going to continue the things I've found to do right now, and when we are going back to work, etc. But I think what I always said students, like if needing to adapt to the new situation, try to translate your life before Corona to the life you have to live right now, to your 12 square meters. And I think that might be the same for going back, like you sort of reinvented your life. Keep in mind all the values you had, like before you would go out sporting and do a lot of social things. You still, if it's important to you, continue, but do it in a way it's that's possible right now. Like if you loved going to theater, now you should try a different art form and try to write poems, for example. If you found a new hobby, like myself, I really got more into music and did some digital recording, and now we're going out again. How can I take that with me in my new life after the Corona crisis? It's again, I think, about translating and keeping in mind what are your core values. And it's like lighthouses along your shore. What is important to you? And make sure you light the lighthouse, that it's your what's the word? It's your lighthouse. It's leading you the way. Make sure it's connected to you and your values.
Wonderful. Good to hear that students are, in a sense, enormously resilient, and that you could help them so much, and that actually you yourself were helped by focusing on music. Wonderful. May I ask you, did you do any specific things to cope with COVID-19 and the lockdown situation?
Well, the first reaction, of course, was take responsibility, take care of colleagues, make sure that we can influence decision making, and make sure that we have enough information to execute the decisions well. But I also did enjoy additional family time, walk the dog, and also count my blessings.
Yeah. I can imagine and totally understand that, of course. Wonderful, thank you. So let's move to the next item, because a sustainable community is diverse in terms of nationality, age, gender. And Alex Jonkhart took the initiative to form Think at the university, which draws attention to the LGBTQIA+ group and their needs. An important initiative, I think, at our UT, and he would like to ask us a question. Let's watch it.
Hello, I'm Alex Jonkhart, one of the timetablers, and besides that job, I'm one of the founders of the Think with Pride work group. Think with Pride wants to stimulate the diversity and equality, and our goal is to increase the awareness. Everybody should feel at home at the university, especially the LHTBQI+ group. For example, we want to organize gender-free toilets in the Citadel or in the Langezijds. Miriam, in which way the University of Twente should change the policy to stimulate the dialogue about diversity and equality?
A clear question. So, how will we change the policy to stimulate diversity?
Well, actually, there's a nice connection with the remark Annemarie made about core values. Inclusion is one of the 3 core values of our university. And we also translated that in a specific implementation route of the new strategy, a shaping expert group that focuses on diversity and inclusion. We appointed a diversity and inclusion officer, and the 2 of them work together to stimulate a dialogue within the university. But we also do concrete things. For example, we increased the times that we do the well-being research among students and staff, and that also contains questions that relate to inclusion, to diversity and equality. We have this Diversity and Inclusion Week with the UT sign in the LGBTQIA+ colors. So it's a very important theme, and it has to do with the fact that we want this to be a safe environment and a welcoming environment where every talent can be developed in the way that it should be.
Yeah.
So it's crucial for
Yeah.
our university.
So we are investing. There are people with
Yeah.
as a specific task to make sure that we have the dialogue and that it becomes bigger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and have exactly the dialogue, as Alex was mentioning, is very important.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely interesting. Annemarie, do you notice sometimes that students don't feel safe on campus?
In general, I think students do feel safe. Living on campus is comfortable, like living in a village. But what we do notice as well is specifically international students finding difficulties integrating on campus. They feel lonely sometimes and miss family life, of course, now very much. And there are a lot of hindrances, I think, in studying abroad, like language, culture, difficulties with housing and integration. And I think the UT really pays a lot of effort in trying to let people feel at home and diversity, inclusion, etc. I think there are many interests. It's a complicated issue, and I think one of our initiatives at our department, we have a support group for international students to so they can share their experiences. But after all, I think it's important we all feel the responsibility to look out at each other and feel that everyone can feel included. It's not only our department or the UT board or whatever. We should do it all together, I think. And I think looking back at last year, we did a lot together. So we can do a lot together.
Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful. I mean, I can also imagine that various types of diversity sometimes do not always go together too well. I mean, I suddenly recall a very old example in the educational sciences building that used to be on the spot where now Ravelijn is. There were gender-neutral toilets, and they were not used by some people. I think some people from Indonesia, if I recall well, because for all kinds of religious reasons, women really did not feel comfortable going to a toilet where men were as well. So then, of course, if you want diversity, that's an extra challenge. So that's well, just an observation. Maybe it's something that we should take into account here. Okay, Annemarie, thank you so much. It was really wonderful to hear. Yeah, thank you for all your insights, and stay healthy and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. So we go to our last item on video. As always, we conclude this episode with culture. And this time we will do this with a short interview with Vivian van Voorthuizen, who's currently writing music and text for NEST, the theater association on campus. And actually it's all about climate change, sustainability, called Onze Toekomst, Our Future. Let's watch the interview with Vivian.
Hello, I'm Vivian from NEST. Currently I'm writing a musical for NEST for next season. It's about climate change and the fight against climate change, as well as tolerance towards each other, especially in this online world today. I'm writing the musical from my own home, basically at my own, but some help from other people. But during that rehearsal process where people shape their character, that gives true inspiration to change some things, to add some things, and that's just a really nice process. So I started the inspiration of the musical with the 1.5 meter rule, because that at that time that I started was the reason for writing the musical. And that was also around the time where there were a lot of protests going wrong, but also a lot of discussion about climate change, which is a very important topic for especially the youth right now. Because of the process of making a piece is super vulnerable, you really have to be open. If you're going to be alone on the stage, you have to present yourself, you have to be vulnerable. And that makes NEST a very tight group, because you have to be there for each other. And that's just really amazing about NEST. Writing a musical is a process that takes an incredible amount of time, but it's also something just super lovely. It's an idea that forms in your head, in your own room, in your own bedroom, just the beginning thought, and then the whole process of people making the character their own, and at the end, an amazing performance, which is just, it's just a dream.
A dream. Wonderful. Super important. Very nice item, I think. Nest is super important, and it's so good, as I say this every month, I think, to see students doing culture. I miss that so much. I really hope we go back to that. So for you it must be maybe odd, because when this performance is done and it will be performed, you will not work at our university anymore, Miriam. Yeah. Maybe you can come.
Oh, definitely, because I will stay an alumnus forever, right?
Exactly. So you will always be welcome. I'm quite sure that Nest will invite you if you want. Thank you so much for being our studio guest. It was
Thank
very
you
nice
very
speaking.
much for having me.
Yeah, it was kind of a farewell interview for us on Campus Talks, but maybe also for you online, already a little bit anticipating your farewell of the university. Thank you so much for being here. And that takes us to the end of this episode, actually the end of the second season. So the 9th episode that we made of Campus Talks in times of the crisis, to stay together a little bit as a community at the University of Twente. Thank you so much for watching. We don't know yet if we will be back. Maybe, maybe not. Something will happen anyway. And if not, we hope to see you in person again on campus to go to all the exciting talks and lectures that we will have here online. Thank you for watching. Stay safe. All the best.